The internet is not being age-gated. Oh sure, all the YouTubers and media organizations can say that's what's going on here, but, you know, they just all happen to be wrong. This isn't about protecting children. Except for the fact that it sort of is. Stick around, this is gonna be a fun one. So obviously the UK has been having a little bit of a fun week, as we all do from time to time. People have said this is an age-gating measure to cover up the internet from the eyes of the impressionable youth. It is not. I'll tell you why. Once again, people have voted for the Saving Puppies and Babies Act, and as soon as it has passed, it has legalized anthrax and added $15 trillion to the national debt. What? You voted for it? But don't the children deserve to be safe? Do it, drop kick, kill, man. I don't have to answer that. Look at it this way. I'm not going to spend my time arguing for children's safety, because this isn't that. I'll prove that to you. The UK's child safety plan, it doesn't have an end goal. We can make the children safer. Good plan, dude. What's your quantifiable end goal? Tell me when we will know that this has succeeded. And sure, fine, I'll go along with it. I'll help. Where does it end? Look at it through the SMART framework. This is a The SMART framework stands for specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and occurring within a reasonable time frame. Now, a good example of a SMART goal would be, I want to achieve 10,000 subscribers by December 31st of 2025. It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable. It's even fairly reasonable considering I don't plan to go anywhere, and it occurs within a time frame that is reasonable to me. The opposite of a SMART goal is what the UK is doing. Do they have any reasonable endpoint to their current plan? Nope. Are they specific with what they want to accomplish? No. Is it measurable in any way? No. Is it attainable or reasonable? No and no. And do they have a realistic time frame? No, because they don't have a time frame. Do subscribe though, I would appreciate that. That'd be nice. Like I said, there is no end goal. There's no way to track whether or not this is even working. There's no way to reroute the fact that corporations make more money off of abusing their users in this lovely age of the internet. It ignores the fact that, well, life finds a way. Did you see that footage of kids using like Gmod to bypass age checks on faces? What happens down the line? Those age checks, they're gonna start saying, oh, we can't use face scans anymore because you might just use a video game. Give us your ID. And about those face scans and IDs, did you notice that all of that is terribly competent next to everything that's been done with the age verification? Oh yeah, we have glitchy face recognition systems that can be fooled by Gmod on one end, but on the other end we have driver's license verification that collects your full identity if you want to visit, web pages where you can get unfiltered news. What a coincidence. Let's just say, for example, some intelligence agency wants to collect the legal identity of some journalist on a platform. They can just go to that platform now and say, hey, can you pass an age verification screen to this one particular user to make them either identify themselves or shut up about this conflict that they're reporting on? Yeah, it's a threat to democracy. But the government wouldn't do that. They just did. They did this the day after the... Look, I don't care what you think of the migrant policy in the UK. I really don't. We don't do politics here. We do psychology. It's more fun. But you're telling me that you want to bring a bunch of people into your nation. They don't have to be paid minimum wage. They're not on the books anywhere. No one's gonna miss them. And they can't access the internet because they don't have a driver's license? Cool, dude. This is what I call a shield layer. It is when you hide your actual goal behind a shield argument that makes it very, very difficult to criticize your argument. You hide, I don't know, invasive data tracking, because who would ever do that, inside of a Children's Safety Act. And if anyone says, hey, all this like skeevy data collection and population monitoring and possible slavery that you're doing, we don't think that's terribly cool. You just say, are you saying you're against, are you against children's safety? Or if anyone tries to argue it from the children's safety route, you just infinitely bullshit them saying, oh, children deserve to be safe, don't they? You can't attack the surface. You can't attack the sublayer. Good luck. So yeah, this is not about the children. Well, it sort of is. I told you that this was going to be a fun one. You know the term rage bait? Content that's only there to make you angry because, well, any attention is good attention in this internet hellbox age. I want to coin a new term adjacent to that. Cage bait. Cage bait is on the cutting edge of new government technology. Where before you had to rely on things like doublespeak and fear tactics, now you have cage bait. Weaponize your audience's most deeply held personal traumas to create fear, division, conflict, and make them do things for their own good. So obviously this isn't doublespeak and it isn't fear tactics, this is cage bait. It's like rage bait, only it relies on a deeply held personal trauma. Now, weaponizing trauma is actually pretty fun because childhood trauma is extremely easy to incur. Trauma is incurred from basically any experience which falls outside of your understanding mechanism. Everything is outside of children's understanding mechanism. Personal anecdote, and this was many, many moons ago. I was in a Wendy's, and someone at that Wendy's had changed the channel to like one of them 24-hour crime shows things that like old people leave on. And in the span of about 5 minutes, my impressionable little mind saw a graphic depiction of a body being exhumed and a scene where a guy was being held hostage and was served stew with chopped up credit cards in it to cut up his throat. And I just couldn't get that out of my head for years. So yeah, childhood trauma is a minefield. Content is valued by its novelty in our current era, and adding shock factor to content is the fastest way to make that content novel to your audience. This isn't always the worst thing in the world. For example, humor is mostly based on shock. Millennials and Gen Z have been exposed to more shock content than anyone else in history. From things like some of the shit that Courage the Cowardly Dog was just cooking up in the writing room, all the way up to the rather jarring experiences that many of us found on the early internet. The kids have seen some shit. That generation that grew up on the early internet and saw that sheer volume of shock content, they are now right about voting age. If we see that as collective shock and we translate that to collective trauma, you get a broad group of people who are not going to fight back if someone says, hey, we should take crazy shit off of the internet, because they're internally thinking, wow, I wish someone had kept me from watching all that debauched shit that I watched when I was that age. Tumblr user Roach-Works put this the best, I think. Ultimately, you become whoever would have saved you that time that no one did. Deep cut. Everybody I know who has formative childhood trauma steers themselves to counteract that trauma in others. Carl Jung had a theory of a shadow archetype within people, or a quiet subconscious that influences your decisions based on your unconscious mind. I think one of these archetypes could best be described as the savior, as in someone who within us wants to save us from the trauma that we experienced but can't. It's just in our memories now. We can't get rid of that. So instead we try to keep others from falling into that same trauma. I know someone who got abused severely as a child, and they're currently working as a therapist trying to keep children from going through those same situations and ending up kind of the way they did. Empathy is a blessing and a curse. I would say that this manifests on a cultural level, where people think that European cultures have this savior complex, just because they are kind of forced by this internal trauma response to always try to save others from a trauma that those others haven't necessarily experienced and don't necessarily mind. So that's how you do cage bait. It's like a fear tactic, except you tie the fear aspect to a deeply held trauma. Essentially, hide your goal in a trauma-based shield layer, depending on a trauma that most of your target demographic probably has, and they will do all of the work for you. So yeah, the UK is taking people's childhood trauma of seeing debauched, crazy shit on the internet and turning it into a weapon, allowing them to do literally unending data scraping with no out point. It's a population registry, and it's going to give third-party data brokers and police agencies a perfect view into what you've been doing on the internet, and if they want to use that for blackmail purposes, sure. Okay, but is the UK's plan really that bad? Can I do better? Unequivocally, yes. It's easy. You give them shits, a library card, Nova documentaries, and that's it. No unmonitored internet access, no unmonitored accounts, no accounts period on a lot of sites. Is this difficult for people? Is it really difficult to say, like, oh, maybe my child shouldn't be sitting on an iPad for 8 hours a day? Frankly, for the amount of parenting that society apparently expects me to do for random people's children on the internet, I should be getting some child support. Why exactly is your bad parenting my responsibility? Is it my fault that you're putting your crotch goblin in front of an iPad for 4 hours a day? You got them shits on there watching Baldi's Basics, gambling streams, and like visceral levels of like You're telling me that every single day I have to watch what I'm doing and saying because there might just be some unmonitored internet access going on? That's dumb. I am not doing that. Parent your children. I am not going to. The internet is not their parent. You are. I wrote this video in a span of 2 days, and you're telling me that the UK government couldn't come up with any better solution? It's not about the children. It is not about the children. So yeah, that is how you manipulate traumatized people into voting away their own right to privacy and basic data security. I'm sure this is the only time that this has ever been done in history, and it's the only country that has ever adopted any such measures.